at Christ Church morning adult Sunday class. There's several things. That's the normal, which you're used to hearing it, but they just like to call it an adult fellowship and allow the Spirit of God to lead us in whatever we believe He desires to talk about through our experiences during the week, thoughts that we have right at the moment. We don't have any, to put it like this, organized scriptural basis that we go to, but just allow the Spirit of God to lead and guide us in whatever. We trust in Him. Amen. That's Christ Church. Amen.
Amen. Well, I had a question asked of me Friday night after the Bible study.
Oh, okay.
Grandson, when I took him home, we sat in the car and talked with him.
That guy's a powerful thinker, man.
Yes.
I always thought that about him.
He asked me this question, and I know probably everybody on the planet had this question at some point in time, or something similar to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about God. It's about why God allows certain things to happen.
Yes.
To some people, people He doesn't allow it to happen. It's about people. It's really about God's election.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he had several friends in school, or at least people he associated with or knew or know. I don't know what the level of the relationship is.
Yeah.
He was comparing his mindset with theirs and saying, why is it that he, the different things he was going through in life, and I don't know what he's going through. He's not that old. He's carrying at 17, 16, 7th grader.
Yeah.
And he said he turns to God for answers for his pressure that he goes through, pressure that's placed on him.
Yeah.
But he said he know of several persons, school classmates or whatever, whoever the relationship is, that have said to him that they tried to find God and they tried God, but God didn't answer them and didn't work for them, so they turned to the devil.
Oh my goodness.
For an answer. He was asking me, why would someone do that? And why God didn't answer them like He answered him.
Yeah.
Interesting question. Why God would answer him and have him seek Him for answers to his issues and problems and things he's facing, like these other kids that he knows. They say that when they tried to talk to God, God didn't answer them, so they went to the devil. Had a different resource with their depression.
Yeah.
They told me a lot of these kids are depressed and they go through great bouts of depression. You wanted to know, I think about that scenario and that circumstance, and the thing that, and then basically again went back to why God seemingly choose some people and don't choose others. He let them go through all kinds of stuff, and they don't seem well. My first answer to him was, first of all, you can't know someone else's life.
Right.
And you really don't know what God's doing with anybody's life.
Yeah.
And the main thing to focus on is, I don't care how far in the darkness you go, you never go too far for God to be able to reach you.
Right.
And so because these persons are still breathing God's air, eating His food, living in His planet, and God is keeping them and keeping us alive, there's still hope for them.
Right.
You can't count nobody out because of what you see them saying, what you hear them talking about, how crazy off base they may be. You really can't count nobody out as long as they're living.
Exactly.
And even after they die, you still can't count them up because you don't have a clue what God did with all that belongs to
Exactly.
you. You just can't make that determination.
Yeah.
But God have, in my opinion, and if I'm right, y'all can help me out here. I mean, we all go through all kinds of things
Right.
in life, all kind of tests, fiery trial, however you want to call it. And it happens, I guess for several reasons, but I want y'all to talk about it because I don't want to have all the answers. I think I do, but I really want someone else's opinion based on what, or feelings, what you think God may have seen me about this whole issue as God led me to talk to Him about God's election, God's foreknowledge, God's plan, God even creating us in His image and likeness, and He'd given us the ability to make choices.
Yeah.
God choosing, God had that prerogative to choose to do what He wants. It's God's prerogative to do whatever He wants to do with anything that belongs to Him, whenever He wants to do it. And I said, like God has given us a great taste for that ability to choose and prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
God give us stuff, and we choose what to do with it.
Right.
I mean, you know, well, I don't care what you call, what you name, what you hold in your hand. If God has given it to you, you still have great responsibility or opportunity to do with it what you will.
Right.
Right.
You know, and that's an attribute that God
That's
has.
an honor.
You know, ability to choose, and we experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And our ability to choose, just like we have prerogative to say I don't want it or I do
Right,
want it.
right.
I want something to eat, I don't want something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And nobody can tell us or what else, what can I say? Can't.
And get in your mind.
You can't get in
and
that
cause
mind and
you
say
to
why you do
change.
that or cause you right. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Good point.
Mhm.
Right.
It can't cause you to change your mind for what you
Right.
chose to do.
Right.
And God is way beyond anything we ever lay eyes on.
Right.
And He does make choices, and He has that prerogative to do it. I was telling him you need to read Hebrews, the 9th
That's
chapter,
what's an honor.
Romans, the 12th chapter. A lot of
Yeah.
verses, the scripture you can read
Yeah.
that kind of speaks to these things. But the bottom line is you really have to know God and know Him beyond what's written in the scriptures, way
Right.
beyond what's in the
Yeah.
scriptures, because God is not descriptive.
Yeah.
And that's the problem for a lot of folks. We think we know God because we know some verses
Right.
and we know some scripture. And so we think we know the mind of God behind what's written, but that's not God.
That's what's an
What's
honor.
written is just a foretaste, I guess you might say, a little bit of a shadow of
Yeah.
God's mind. It's
It
not
is.
Him. It's not Him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's a problem for, again, I'll say again, a lot of people, because we build a lot of things based on the scriptures, and they allow the context based on what God's heart really is concerning it. So as we've been talking in the past, and still talking about, is, you know, getting to know the thoughts and intents
Mm-hmm.
behind God's mind for what He do.
Right.
And we really can't never really know, you know, other than some revelations that He may give us of why He did what He did, to
Right.
know, to understand His mind. It's like the parables. When Jesus was speaking to the Pharisees and Sadducees in parables, and in His disciples, and they asked Him, why are you speaking in parables?
Right.
He says, it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but to them it is not given to know.
Right.
And so He went on to expound on to them what He meant by what He said. Obviously, they didn't have His mind. Until He told them why He did what He did, they didn't have no idea. That's why they asked the question.
Right.
Because we don't know why you're saying this, or why you're doing that. Because they didn't have His mind.
Right.
The scripture says no one knows the mind of the Spirit except the Spirit Himself.
Right.
No one knows what's on your mind. I don't know what's on your mind right now. I might think I know. But you
Exactly.
could be thinking all kinds of thoughts.
Exactly.
You could be thinking what's going on at home for all I
Right.
know.
Mhm.
Why are you here? All kinds of thoughts is going on in your mind. Or in the same vein, we say and we do things and we have thoughts and intent behind what we're saying. And because our words create things, the word makes it very clear. Our words create atmosphere. It creates all kinds of stuff. It's created words. We can say something to somebody on purpose to make them think something that's not true.
Right.
Just like what the devil did on purpose when he lied to Eve. His intent was to cause her to do what she did. He deceived her. But she didn't know what was on the devil's mind. She heard what he
Exactly.
said,
Right.
but she didn't know the thoughts and
Didn't know,
intents of his
right.
heart, why he was saying that. And the same thing is true with any deception or any lie that someone engaged in. The person that's producing the lie, or even the truth,
Right.
have thoughts, have motives behind why they're saying what they're saying. And you don't know that thought and intent because you're not that person, or you're not that entity that's making the proclamation, proclaiming certain things. So, anyway, that was kind of a part of my answer to him about why God does what He do, and the fact that God has the prerogative to do what He wants to do with everything, and He already has a plan that's in place that's working. And everything's going to work and is working after the counsel of His own will. And we just need to accept that, even when we don't understand.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with asking the question. Everybody asks the
Exactly,
question.
yeah.
Why God do? I mean, that's how you're going to learn without asking the question. How you going to know without investigating? How you going to find out if you don't ask the question?
Right.
You need to rely on the source that you're getting your answers from to say whether this is true or not.
Right.
And that can be very difficult because, again, because you still don't know the thought and intent
Of his
of where you're getting your information from unless you really consult God. That's why I always quote the scripture when I'm speaking to people about Jesus or about the Word or whatever it is that I'm talking to them about. James 1:5, which says, "And you lack wisdom, let him ask of God."
Right.
God has the answer. Don't ask me. I mean, that's not true. You can ask me, but after you ask me, you consult God.
That's all right. Mhm.
Consult God and say,
Right.
what I'm saying to you, is it God's heart, God's mind, or is it thoughts, or is it just me
Right.
coming up with an answer for you? You really, really, really need to get that close with God. And I said, I love that about God, because He will cause you to seek Him. He will cause you to wonder so He can answer.
Yes.
Trials and hard times have a way of doing that. They'll run you to God.
Yes, they will.
They'll run you
Oh,
straight to Him and then say,
Yes.
what in the world has just happened, God? You know. And He will answer you. And you get some understanding.
Yes.
But every day, if everything was always in your favor, that would be, to me, produce a real problem.
Yeah.
Because you get prideful, which we discussed a long
Exactly.
time ago, get arrogant, everything given to you without any kind of struggle,
Yeah.
everything you ask for, everything you want, you get it. That is terrible.
And guess who'll take credit for it?
You will. You will. You won't give God no glory for it.
Exactly.
You
You won't
think
even look
somehow or
for it.
another that's powerful and stuff, because this is something that happens to me sometimes. My kids say this to me, and I haven't said back to them what's on my mind about their comments but I feel this when they say this to me. Now, recently we've had a lot of trouble with vehicles. I don't know what in the world's going on.
Yeah.
One car blew up, a van. I mean, I had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Everything in my yard's got an issue. Don't understand what in the world's going on. But this is a comment that I've heard from my kids. Now, they have said this to me before in a dozen seconds. I'm going to use this one for an example. They say, especially one of my sons, both of them actually say to me, you know, Dad, you've been such a good father, and you've been there for us, and you're always looking for everybody, and you do anything for everybody. You're always helping people, and you know, you're such a giving person. Those kind of comments they make to me. And say,
Yeah.
well, you know, we know God's going to take care of you. We know God's going to look up for you. And I hear them saying that.
Right.
Their reason for saying it is because what I just said. They see what I do,
Right.
and they had this impression that somehow or another God owe me something. They're not saying it that way. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? They're judging what they see me do and concluding that because of what I do, I have God's favor, and God always going to favor me with the
Right.
best of everything. And I'm hearing that, and I'm saying to myself, I need to say to them, no, that's not the way this works. God still don't owe me nothing because I do what I do.
Right.
Because I'm there for you, because every time you have need, God has enabled me to be able to supply it, basically. You know, looking out for y'all as my kids and my seed. That's what I'm supposed to do.
You're supposed to, right.
I'm your father. I'm not outside. I'm not doing nothing strange or nothing way out there.
Exactly.
That's what I'm called to do.
Yes, Lord.
So just because I'm fulfilling that with you all, don't think that God owed me nothing.
Right.
Don't get the impression that God's going to make life so easy for me
Yeah.
because I'm doing this. That's the
Right.
wrong perspective. And so I don't receive that from them. I don't rebuke them for saying it, but I don't receive that in the sense that now it got me in the mindset saying, God, you owe me.
Right.
Oh no, I'm not going there. I know better.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But the thoughts and the intent, if I want the journey, if
have
I
a
didn't
question.
know
Did
God like this.
Did he actually say the word "oh"?
No. No,
Because-
it's a perspective that no, they don't say, oh, it's,
That's
well,
what he's saying.
they might as well say in this sense because
That's
they
the way
say
they're thinking.
that's what they're thinking.
They're thinking God is obligated
I get it.
because you're doing
Right.
what appears to line up with God.
Right.
Because
That-
what I'm saying is, you might have had, and it could be, it could not, don't have to be, interpreted as they interpreted it that way. But if they know your fruits, they know you give, they know you are always helping other people. They know that, and then they're thinking, God said He's going to supply. My God will supply all my need according to His riches and glory.
Right.
And they see what you do.
Okay.
And God, and it could be they know that God's going to take care of you. Because when you reach out and we help others and we do we line up what the word tell us to do, he does do that. Now, it might not come all the time when we want it to come, or right at that instance, but because because we are his children, he do take care of us.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is a season where, I'm gonna use the word season, where
fine.
we're gonna be blessing others. And then there's a season where we receive. So they might be looking on that side where that receiving time for you, because you had, lined up, because you have the fruits, you have you have been obedient to what God is saying. So it may not, although you might have interpreted it from them saying it that way, in reality they could have said it, but they didn't really have to mean it that way. Not unless they accidentally, if they accidentally came up and say, Dad, God owe you, then you know exactly that that's what they're talking about. But
Yeah,
if they don't actually say it that way, they could mean, Dad, God's going to take care of you.
Well, see, but I already know this.
Yeah, but I'm hearing what she's saying, and what you, it's a powerful point what you're saying, Margaret, and a lot of times, if not, I mean, a few times, if not many, we make that mistake in regards to assuming by reason of their conduct and their character and the words they use. Of going to a depth of understanding and saying that this is what they mean, and it's quite possible that they didn't. We can easily do that, but what I think what Larry is getting at also is his understanding of how God works, and see, that's what they're failing to understand. That's why these questions come up. That's why our questions come up. It's always an avenue of misunderstanding. We're going right back to this thing, the intent of what God has said.
Right.
Now, by reason of our own experience, and I'm with you on this, we shouldn't take it for granted.
Right.
By no means. But by reason of our experience, we can, by the Spirit of God, deduce certain things, especially if we spend time with Him. And it's like you and your daughter. When she says something XYZ, I think you ladies have a better handle on really searching it out because you're looking for a deeper understanding. But we men want to fix it.
Yeah.
We always do. We want to fix it. We want to get it fixed and get them on the right track, because we know if we get them there, that God is going to be able to take care of all of that. But at the same time, sometimes we need to stop and hear exactly what you're saying. We need to question them. Just our Lord said. So, are you saying that God owes me something? Are you actually saying that?
Right.
We need to ask those questions.
Which I never have done.
Yeah, and see, that's the point that she's making.
Right.
And that's a
Right.
powerful point, because in order to really deeply understand them, then we see that in the Lord and what He does. Do you understand what I just said?
Yeah,
to
we
you?
already quoted that.
You know, that type of
Powerful.
stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, the way that we communicate with them can help them greatly, even in that assumption. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to answer you
Right.
according to what I know you
About that.
need,
Right.
and that's where I'm going.
Right.
To tell you
Right.
the truth, I hate to put it like this, we don't even want to know what they mean. I'm talking men. That is, we don't even want to know what they mean. We know what they need. You see, it's just like God. Sometimes you find God asking Israel in certain areas, what's your problem? He said, you call me unequal? He said, isn't it you unequal? Then he presents a case. I don't even want to go through that. So listen, if you did, my brother Matt used to get so mad sometimes. He said, listen, if you just trust what I tell you and stop questioning me, you'll get to where you need to be. Stop. But it's natural for us to question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
We question God.
Yeah. All the time.
So I guess, and again, I take your point seriously, Margaret. We need to find a balance, especially now with these kids.
Yeah.
Because they just don't take, do as I say,
Anymore.
and that's it.
Yeah.
just don't. This,
That don't
this,
work.
this,
That's-
the whole Satan has produced a whole genre of circumstances
Yeah.
and choices that their minds don't even begin to work that way.
Yeah.
And it's only because of the great respect that he has for you and Lavonia as his grandparents that he even asked. I mean, I would venture that he probably hadn't asked his father this. I would venture that he probably hadn't asked it. So if we don't take anything away from this today, we need to take your
But if you
perspective
think about
from
it,
this.
If you think
As-
about
as
it,
men.
even years
Yeah.
ago, and they say, well, we say, do this or do that, and we might have said, well, why such and such, well, I
Yeah.
told you, or that's not really giving them, right? That was not we.
That's what you got.
Because what you develop are
Where I
thinking.
came
You
from.
develop thinking. Someone we develop their reasoning. We begin to read when they asking questions, they're developing that thing.
Yes.
Their reasoning.
Yes, they
stuff.
are.
Yeah.
So it's just like
Sure.
you got to know the steps. When you do a math problem, you're sitting down there. You got to
Yeah.
know those how to
Right.
put together. What are they really asking? What does it mean? So I can work my formula out, whatever, to get this problem done. So if you just say, "Oh, because I said so,"
Yeah.
that's not
helping
really
them.
helping.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not because I said
Yeah.
so. That's not saying, well.
Do it somewhere else and get the
It's
answer.
not
Yeah,
causing
that's
Then
them
they'll say,
to
okay,
think.
Daddy and Mama ain't telling me. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
here
I'm
down
gonna
the
go
street,
to-
Joe
I'm going to
Blow.
my friend,
then
my
they get
peer,
the
my
wrong
peer group,
answer.
right?
Well, Mama them, they don't
Right.
even, they
Yeah.
don't even know what
Yeah.
time it is. They don't know the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Okay, wow,
And-
that's another powerful point.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a powerful, and I'm like that with my daughter now. I was never like that before, but I mean, a good almost 10 years ago now, I started realizing that there was so much dialogue that was missing in our coming up. There was only my monologue.
Right.
You see, and that didn't help her to grow to understand relationship.
Right,
You have to hear them.
yeah.
In order to hear them, you got to listen.
Yeah.
You really have to listen so you can hear exactly what they're saying, and then don't assume. Ask them questions. And a lot of times, in the world's analogy, the thing is to repeat what they said and use different words. So you saying God owes me something, or is that what you're really saying? I need to understand where you're at.
But that, and the reason why that question need to be asked is because a lot of folks have been taught that God do owe you
Yes,
something.
Exactly.
exactly.
They've been told that if
You
you
do
do,
good
God
and
will
God-
do.
right.
Yeah.
You do that, God's gonna come through for you. If you don't do it, and there you go to Deuteronomy 28
Yeah.
for that perspective on God's.
Right.
They go right
Yeah.
to Deuteronomy 28. Said, these blessings gonna follow you.
Yeah.
All these curses come after you.
Right.
You don't do this, this is the
Yeah.
result. You do this, this is the result. And people conclude that that's God. I'm gonna bless you in the city. I'm gonna
Right.
bless you in the country. I'm gonna bless you where you go
Right.
because you did what I told you to do. And if you don't
Right.
do it, this is the consequence. I'm going to
Yeah.
be cursed shall be the fruit of the ground, curse this,
Right.
curse the other thing. And you don't know God
Yeah.
behind that. And that's the problem with using the scriptures
Yeah.
to your own destruction. And you need to ask questions like what he asked me, but
Yeah.
you need someone who's gonna ask God what the answer is.
Right.
Because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
When I started asking God, what do you want to say? Because I don't know what the answer is. I
Yeah.
don't even, I don't know handle on this thing that
Yeah.
I can tell you
Right.
what's on your mind.
Right.
Your mind. I don't know what you want to tell them, what you want to say to them.
Yeah.
So I'm available to you to speak in my heart what
Yeah.
you want them to hear with their ears that you create. Because I really don't want to be responsible
Right.
for misleading somebody
Right.
and giving them the wrong answer for what God really wants
Yeah.
to say to them. And that's humbling.
Yeah.
It's back to
It
humility
is.
again. It's back to humility. You have
Yeah.
to say, okay, God, I don't care how many experience I had with you.
Yes.
I don't have the answer to why you saying what you're saying or why you're doing what you want to do.
Right.
Right.
You do you and me.
Yeah.
And let me get out the way
Yeah.
and let you do what you want to do.
I know a
Because
lot
you
of
always
times.
have to walk in humility,
Yeah.
no matter what.
I know a
Yes.
lot of times
Those are walking pride.
when I'm in the classroom and I give the instruction, I repeat it at least 3 or 4 times. And I keep going, oh, this is what you do, this is what you do. And then I could do it 10 times. It'll still be, what we doing? And then the other kids say, well, didn't she just tell you we're doing such and such, such and such? So because we're telling somebody, like I said, that they're not listening or your mind is on
Right.
something else, you're not going to hear it. But is it because the person didn't tell you
Right.
or give you the instruction? No. It's just
Yeah.
that at that particular time, I wouldn't tune in, or I didn't get the full understanding.
Yeah.
So then I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I could say, well, you didn't tell me. I could say, yes, I did. I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, I want you to go in there, go in there and, get the clothes out the dryer or something like that. And then you done told him, and you come back and say, clothes? Oh, you didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I told you, but you weren't listening.
Mhm.
Your mind was off on
Right.
on something else.
Yeah.
So now what I'm gonna do, I get the sheet of paper and put it on the refrigerator, put it in your hand,
Mhm.
and write it down and give it to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost sometimes it comes
Yeah.
down to that.
In other words, you have to do something that really is not a part of what you want in order to get them to what you want.
Yeah.
In other words, to bring their attention to you. And that's a powerful thing. God does that all the time with us because he knows how our minds is.
That's what some of them trials and hard stuff all about.
Yes,
Your
sir,
attention.
that to
You
get
didn't
your
hear me the first
attention.
time. I told you nicely, didn't I? You
To
didn't hear.
focus
So let me
you
put
to
some.
where you need to be.
It'll hook you a little bit.
And
So that'll get your attention.
this, back to that question, because that's a powerful question. Hey, sis. Oh, that's test number 655.
Yeah.
This question is a question that really needs help in understanding the sovereignty of God. You really have to get down and talk about that a little bit. Why you are the way you are. Because God made you this way. Why you even see people doing what they're doing and reacting in the way that they're reacting. It's because it always boils down to you don't understand the sovereignty of God.
Right.
And what he's doing. How you doing, sis? Don't be high-fiving him. I know what y'all talking about.
Let me high five you.
No, the cause and intent already.
I know, yeah.
But that's a deep subject.
Ready when you get ready.
And like Margaret said, it's going to take a few things before you can really get there. And one of the things is that, I mean, it goes right back to what you say all the time. You need to ask God. I know you say you don't know how God is going to deal with a person.
Right. Yeah, no idea.
And you can't take
idea.
one incident or one statement and say that's how God is dealing with that person.
Right.
You can't. Because you can't do that with yourself now,
Yeah.
can you?
No.
If you would just take one instance out of your life and say that's how God's dealing with you, you already know you're wrong because you have a little bit more understanding than they do because you're talking to God. You could, for lack of it, you can hear him some way, shape, form, fashion. You're responding to him. But it didn't take just that one instance.
Right.
It took your whole life.
Took all kinds of
Yeah.
circumstances and change
Yeah.
to come up.
Yeah. See,
Develop that in you.
what came to my mind with 2 Timothy, actually I thought it was in Corinthians, that's why I had to go in there and look it up. But one of your passages also, favorite one is 2 Timothy 2. I'm trying to see where to start. Yeah. This whole chapter actually, but standing straight. See, this is what he has to do, as we all have to. He starts off in there by telling him in verse 3, "Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ." Yeah. And then after he talks about Christ being raised in these things, he says, of these things in verse 14, put them in remembrance, charging them before the Lord that they strive not about words to no profit. You see, those you talking about those things don't profit you. but to the subverting of the hearers. And this is what Margaret is talking about. Really hearing what these people are saying, so that you don't strive with them
Right.
about what
Argue.
they're saying,
Right.
but rather, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You say, but shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. And all this is leading up to one statement that's very powerful. He said, and their word will eat as doth a canker, of whom is these two persons, Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already and overthrown. See, these guys are, this is not the condition that his friends are in.
Right.
You have to make that. They just don't know,
Right.
period. But he said, nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his. So you can't take this one incident, this one meeting with them, and by your proclamation and your estimation, think that there is no hope for them.
Right.
No.
That was my whole point to him. That-
God knows
Oh, man,
who
okay.
he's going to deal with.
Right.
You have to understand this. He
Yeah.
dealt with you.
Yeah.
This is your time now. It may
Yeah.
not be theirs.
Right.
And it's obvious it isn't. But even then, God is still working on them. Now listen. And let everyone that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. You just moved to where God's taking you. I know you're concerned about your friends, all those different things, but just as you were not here at one point in time, that's exactly where they're at right now. But you need to deal with God where you're at, so that they may see it. He said, but in a great house, this is the scripture, there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. This great house, this is God's creative effort.
God's prerogative.
This is his thing.
Right.
And how he put these vessels in his house is his thing. But check this out. Now, if a man therefore purge himself from these, from what? What these? Everything back before here. Study to show yourself approved. Don't shun profane and babblings and all of this type of mess. Believing that God's foundation standeth sure. Faithful saying, if we be dead with him, all those things back there before what he said. If you would purge yourself from them unnecessary things, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every. See, this preparation is not your work.
Right.
You don't do this. God is the one preparing you. And how you could be wood starting off. And when God finished with you, you go. Now you might think yourself gold when you're starting out,
Yeah.
but when God finished with you, you'll see that you was stubble for his purpose.
Right.
Because I think sometimes too, even though like with the young man, I think sometimes God has certain people to go through certain things
Sure.
because somewhere along the line one day that young man gonna be able to help somebody
Yes.
out of where
Yeah.
they are in the darkness, like
Yeah.
he's in the darkness now.
Amen.
Because God is going to use that. God is going to mightily bring him out of it. Where he know it ain't nobody but God that did it. The
Right.
devil had nothing to do with that,
Right. And
But
he
now
had
can,
nothing to
he
do
can
with
go
it.
forth and
Amen.
help another student or whatever now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think God made us. God created us.
Yeah.
He know everything we're going to do, say, walk, step, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
he
Lord.
has certain vessels that he uses for certain things
Yeah.
to go through.
You just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
And you're not going to get there until you go through all of this. Flee also useful lust. That means you either a part of it, been around it, or whatever. He said, run, get away from there, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace, with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. See, that's the preparation that God does to create this pure heart, and you can't help but call on him. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they generate strifes, and the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient. Now listen to this, in meekness, instructing those that are poor. And see, you can't get there until you go through all of this.
Right.
This process has to happen. You can't learn to be meek until God has humbled you
Yeah.
from all this foolish stuff that
Yeah.
you've been in.
Yeah.
Even when you thought it was great.
Yeah.
By the world's estimation, all that was fine. This thought process that you have, this way of thinking and doing things,
Yeah.
it seemed to have gotten you all types of goods and assets or
Yeah.
whatever your heart's desire is. But it's all foolishness to God.
Right.
And until he brings you down to that point, because he's going to do that, then you won't be able to instruct anybody in anything. If God peradventure, now this is the powerful part.
This
You
is
can
God-
do all that.
This is God's
Yeah.
sovereignty. God's
Yeah. This is why your friends say they're going to the devil.
yeah.
If God peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth, until God open their hearts up to what you're saying, it's going to bounce off just like a stone brick wall.
In the next
And that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will. Yeah. Now that's wild. We can talk about that, be taken captive by him at his will. And boy, you know. Whew.
I'm looking at
Yes, sir. He is. He is.
Second Peter.
2 Peter. Mm-hmm.
2 Peter, first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things you just read out that scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about faith, sometimes you just think about believing and trusting.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go into Peter, you go back. Let's see. Guess I could start at the 3rd verse.
Mm-hmm.
According as his divine power has given us all things that pertain unto life and godliness through the knowledge of him that has called us to glory and virtue,
Mm-hmm.
whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises,
Yeah.
that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust.
Mm-hmm.
And beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness,
Yeah.
and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity.
Mm-hmm.
For if these things be in you and are abound, for if these things be in you and
Mhm.
abound, they make you that you shall neither be burned nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all the time you just saying you hear different preachers or teachers or whatever just this saying we gotta trust God, believe in God, and then even like this, well, I'm a new creature. I'm becoming that new creature. But here it's saying this is part of that. That's what I'm taking it for.
Mhm.
Process of the mind change, being born again. That faith has to have something else to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to add. It says here because if we didn't have to do it, why would they write it?
Mm-hmm.
If it's because we are saved and we're new creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But here it says, add to your faith virtue,
Yeah.
and to virtue knowledge. And it goes on and tell you all of these things, because most of these things that are here are listed in the fruits of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing those things to, I guess, be manifested is the word.
Yes.
Because we already have it in us.
Yes.
So allowing those things to be manifested in us,
Yes.
so they'll come out, so
Yeah.
that not only I know it, but others that are around me can see this also.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things we don't know where we at until
Mhm.
situations and things come up.
Right.
Because I can think that, oh yeah, I walk in humility,
Yeah.
but then there may be a situation come up, and I find myself that this time I might didn't handle it the same way I might have handled it last time, depending on what other things I may have been dealing with in the course of the day or the day before, that maybe I didn't, really go into my prayer time, go into my worship time.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. In the classroom, I was in the classroom on Friday, and a little boy came to me, and he asked me a question. But I'm taking it, he asked me what something meant. I didn't know what he was talking about. So I said, okay, don't worry about that. Right now you got to get your lesson done. And the other boys were like, oh, you asked her that question. So he came back the second time, he asked me again. I said, okay. And they said, you asking her that again? And I said, look, told you, this is what I asked you to do. I asked you to go back, do your lesson, don't worry about this question. But after I know the students, the way they was reacting to what he said to me, I know it was something that he shouldn't have asked me. So
They wanted to keep amongst themselves.
And end up, I knew that he was going to come back and ask me the same thing again. So I said, I tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to call the administrator in here. Now, that same question that you asked me, I want you to ask him. So when the administrator came in, and I said, well, he's been asking me a certain question. I told him the same question he asked me to ask. Why don't you go ahead and ask him? But the administrator, he didn't tell him to repeat it at that time or really go in it. He just told him, say, come on, take your things and come on and go with me. So I'm taking it because he didn't do that. I'm not saying for sure, and I don't want to presume on it. But evidently, I guess he went on and handled it in his own way, how he was going to deal with this child. But I didn't go back and I didn't ask the kids afterwards because I didn't want to keep it going. What he meant. But I knew it was something that he should not have been saying. But they really put me to the test. And I could really feel that thing rise up in me. So I said, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to keep on trying to say, sit down, be quiet, start your work. And usually I try to be very, very patient, that I don't have to send anyone out the room. And most of the time, those in there, they acting up. And like I keep saying, come on, this is important. You have to get your work done. Because I had 2 other students in another class. And so one of the students afterwards, he went on, did his work and settled himself down. Now the other one, he went over there and laid on the floor and did everything. Every 5 minutes, keep going to the machine, the little thing with the soap wet, antibacterial. Keep getting up, just kept on doing. So afterwards, I told the administrator, just come on and get him. Because even when the other one, they were acting together, even when he settled down, he went over to the seat. I moved one boy. I said, look, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move you over here. So after I moved him, he kind of settled down. So then he goes over the other boy, and he sits into the other side of the room, but he started acting up with this other child that was there. So I said, you know what, just come and get him. And sometimes I'll tell them, I say, when they get this stuff together, they want to be the part of the class, they can come back in. So usually sometimes they bring them back, and sometimes they keep them. But I some days I'm like, I felt that thing in. And I don't, then sometimes you get accused. And the other kids will say, no, she didn't say that. No, she didn't do that. Why are you doing that?
Are you lying?
Yeah. They kind of like got this little thing where they go together. And because sometimes they don't want to do the work or something. Like I had one student one time, she was in there, wouldn't do the work, talk. So finally I called the administrator down. I said, I need you to come down. Administrator comes, what's going on? Why you not doing the work? Oh, she didn't tell me what to do. I'm like, I did, or she didn't help me. She didn't help me with my work. And I said, that's not true. Because I asked you need help, or you sit there, you keep talking, or you don't ask me for the help. I'm gonna rephrase that. I didn't say that. She never asked me and said I need help. All they want to do go in there, and this is just about every school, from the little kids to the older kids. I've never seen this since I've been serving this year.
I'm just asking, but how old are these children?
From